Hello guys, tonight, we're drifting far from our own time, crossing not just oceans but centuries, settling slowly into the dusty ochres and olive greens of the ancient Greek world. Our destination is Sparta. Yes, that's Sparta. A city cloaked in legend and discipline. Not a place of marble and philosophy like Athens, but of iron will, harsh training, and the rhythmic beat of marching feet on dry earth. Before we begin, I'd love to know where and when you're listening from. Perhaps you're in a quiet cabin in the mountains, or beneath the hum of a city, wrapped in blankets while midnight rains softly on your window pane. Leave a comment with your time and location if you'd like. It's always interesting to imagine where all our little glowing windows of calm are flickering in the dark world around us. Now, get cozy. Breathe deeply. Let the noise of the day sink behind you like a ship disappearing beyond the horizon. Settle in. Dim your lights or turn them off entirely. Whether you're lying on a soft mattress or curled on a couch, let yourself feel still. The story will carry you gently. Close your eyes if you wish. Let me place you in another body, another life. You're a boy, small, perhaps 7 winters old. The air is cool and sharp, scented with pine resin and sun-dried earth. It's the middle of the 5th century BCE, in a place that doesn't know the concept of mercy as you might. A narrow world of stone houses, square-cut courtyards, and distant hills where the iron sun rises not as a comfort, but as a clock, ticking you forward toward one purpose. You live in Lacedaemon, though outsiders will call it Sparta, a city not of opulence or art, but of silence and sharpness. There are no walls around it. None are needed. Sparta believes her sons are the walls. You've known your mother's voice, soft but controlled. Her hands have always been strong, capable of grinding grain or lifting a child. You've known your father less well. He speaks rarely. But his gaze is like the edge of a blade. It sees, it measures, it judges. Today his eyes hold no warmth. Today is the day he lets you go. You do not cry. You're not supposed to. Not even when you're told that from now on, your life belongs to the state. They call it the agog, meaning the leading or the upbringing. But it's not just schooling, it's not just training. It is the slow chiseling away of everything soft inside you. And it begins now. The early morning sky is still touched with pale blue when they come. A group of older boys, maybe 12 or 13. Not men, but already lean with muscle earned not from sport or play, but from hardship. Their eyes scan you, these new arrivals, dozens of you, newly separated from your families. You stand in tunics that don't keep out the cold, with bare legs streaked with dust. One boy near you has already vomited from nerves, but this is Sparta. There is no comfort for the weak. Your name is nothing, one of the older boys says. You are not citizens, you are not sons, you are clay. If you do not harden, you will be shattered. The first night you sleep on reeds. No bedding, no blanket. The stars wheel slowly overhead. Someone cries softly in the dark, but no one moves to help him. The silence is absolute. The paidonomos is your new master. He is older, wiry, sun-worn, his hair drawn back into a tight knot. He does not smile. His job is not to teach you letters, though you will learn to read just enough to follow orders and recite the poems of Tertius, songs not of beauty, but of death and obedience. His job is to mould you, or break you trying. You learn quickly that food is scarce. Meals are communal. You sit cross-legged in a great stone hall with rows of other boys, chewing slowly on black broth, boiled pig's blood and vinegar, thick with the bitterness of survival. You eat only what you are given, you will learn to steal if you want more, and you will learn to be clever. Because if you are caught, the punishment is not for the theft, but for failing to do it skillfully. Hunger becomes your teacher. It sharpens you, draws the lines of your face tighter. You begin to see the difference between the slow and the quick, the clever and the dull, the survivors and the ones who will falter. Already some boys begin to fade. They grow quieter, thinner. A look comes into their eyes, the look of one who wishes they had not survived their inspection at birth. For in Sparta, weak infants are not nurtured. They are discarded, their cries silenced by the wind of Mount Taygetus. But you passed that first test, and now you are here. When the pain begins, it comes in the form of drills, barefoot, running through sharp stone paths, forced wrestling on hot sand, You are paired with boys older and larger. You lose, you fall, you bleed, but you get back up, always. Your instructors beat you if you hesitate. Your peers beat you if you complain. You're taught not to cry, not to speak unless spoken to, not to show fear. Every day your tunic gets thinner, your skin rougher. You begin to change. Sometimes, as the sun sets behind the ridges to the west, you hear the faint call of birds over the valley. The evening winds shift through the olive trees and stir the wild thyme. In those rare moments, you remember your mother's voice, but it slips away quickly. The Aghosh does not allow for memory, only formation. And yet, not all is pain. There is something deep and quiet in the ritual, a strange rhythm. You wake before dawn, train through midday, endure trials, then rest beside a fire while an older boy recites epic tales of Sparta's victories, of Thermopylae, of men who died standing with spears in their hands. There is pride in those stories, a sense of destiny. You begin to believe that you too are part of something greater. Still, in the dark, when no one is watching, your body aches, your hands tremble with the cold, your stomach clenches from emptiness, but you do not speak of it. This is only the beginning. You are 7. The days bleed into each other, indistinguishable under the dry, unyielding Spartan sky, where the sun rises not to welcome but to demand. You no longer mark time by feasts or seasons, but by bruises fading and new ones appearing, by how many lashes you received yesterday, and whether your limbs obey you today. The others are changing too. The weeping has stopped. No one clings to memories anymore. You've all learned that remembering does no good here. You're not children now. You're cadets of the Agog. And as the bond with your family severs fully, the state steps in like a cold parent with unblinking eyes. The city owns you. It is a sacred transformation. You have crossed the invisible line from son to tool. A few weeks into your training, you receive your Iron, an older boy assigned to oversee your group. He is 15, lean and merciless. His eyes are sharp, his voice low and dry, like sand shifting through cracks. He does not beat you often. He doesn't need to. One glance from him is enough to send a ripple of stillness through the group. You learn that a whispered command carries more threat than a shouted one. His name is Sion, and to you he might as well be the god of war himself. He inspects your beds of reeds, your torn sandals, your fingernails. He tests you constantly, physically, mentally, socially. If you fall behind in drills, he makes you repeat them barefoot on gravel. If you stammer when asked to recite a line of Tertius, he forces you to stand on one foot until your knees shake. He's not cruel for the sake of cruelty. This, he tells you, is all necessary. There is a system to this life, a strange, bitter elegance. At dawn, you wash in a cold stream that numbs your fingertips, then drills, shields, formation, running, wrestling, endurance exercises where some boys faint from exhaustion and are revived with slaps. Meals are small, always small. Sometimes you fight for leftovers, but only silently, strategically, with your eyes and your elbows. Keon watches. He notices who takes and who yields. Later you find out he's keeping track, reporting to the Paidonomus which boys are hardening properly and which are showing cracks. You sleep little. You wake constantly. The fear of ambush from other groups keeps you on edge. The Agog teaches not only obedience but cunning. Every night could be a test. You and the others have learned to sleep with one eye open, one ear tuned to movement. You don't speak unless spoken to. You rarely smile. Your face is beginning to set into that familiar Spartan calm, an expressionless mask of self-control and alert silence. Then, one night, a test. You're told to steal food from the mess hall. Not for the taste, not for relief, but to learn to survive on your own. Chion says nothing. He only nods toward the shadows, and you understand. It's a game, and also a punishment, and also a lesson. You wait until after dark, until the voices have quieted and the guards have grown bored. You move barefoot through the courtyard, belly hollow with hunger, eyes wide with dread. Your fingers are trembling, not from fear, but from anticipation. Because hunger sharpens everything, even courage. You crawl under a wooden shelf, your ribs scraping against splinters, and reach for a lump of bread. It's stale, cracked at the edges, but it's food. You slip it under your tunic and move back into the dark, but you're not clever enough. You're caught. They beat you, but not for stealing. They beat you for being caught. This is what Kion tells you again and again. You must learn to take without being seen. A Spartan must never fail in deception. Never fail in silence. His voice is low as he strikes you with the flat of a wooden rod, not enough to break bones, but enough to burn into memory. Later, after the pain subsides, you eat the stolen bread anyway, slowly, alone, in the dark corner of the training yard where no one can see you chew and savour and swallow. And somehow it tastes sweeter than anything you've eaten before. In the following days, something shifts. You begin to win at wrestling, not through strength, you are still small, but through speed and unpredictability. You learn how to use the other boy's momentum against him, how to fall in a way that doesn't hurt, how to feint, how to bite back when they least expect it. Kion notices. He doesn't praise you, he doesn't speak, but his eyes linger on you longer. That is reward enough. The others in your group begin to form a quiet hierarchy. There are leaders, whisperers, tricksters, enforcers. Some boys fade to the edges, always bruised, always cautious. You're learning to navigate this jungle without words. This is not school, this is war in its earliest form, a simulation of danger refined over generations. The Ago doesn't teach lessons, it turns you into one. You begin to see the city differently. The grown men with red cloaks and spears no longer seem so distant. They are not symbols, they are your future. The blacksmiths, the elders, the girls passing silently with jars balanced on their heads. All of them are part of the order that you are being moulded into. You feel yourself belonging to something that does not explain itself, but demands everything. At night, in the training hall you are taught the war songs, low rhythmic chants sung from the chest. The verses speak of glory and death and shields and blood. You repeat them until they echo inside you even in silence. They become part of your breath. They replace lullabies. You're not allowed to own anything. No toys, no trinkets. But one day, during a latrine break, you find a small piece of smoothed bone near the stream, carved faintly with a zigzag pattern. You don't know who made it, you don't know what it meant, but you pocket it, hidden in the hem of your tunic, and say nothing. It is not allowed. But it is yours. And that feels like power. Weeks pass. The pain becomes background noise. You stop thinking about your parents. You stop asking how many days it has been. You're no longer waiting to go home. You don't even say the word home anymore. And still, the drills intensify. One afternoon, under the burning light, you are made to run a long distance with a stone balanced on each hand, arms extended. If you drop them, you start again. If you lower them, you start again. You do this until your arms feel like they belong to someone else. But you finish. You always finish. That evening, Cheon walks past and says one word. Better. That is the most praise you have ever received. You begin to think, maybe you are made for this. You are still 7. You're beginning to understand that there are 2 languages in Sparta. One is spoken aloud, short, clipped, precise. Orders, chants, responses. The other lives in the spaces between sounds, in the way a boy glances when food is scarce, in the way the Iran's jaw tightens before he selects someone for punishment, in the slow shifting of weight before a blow is delivered. It is this second language that now fills your days. You listen constantly, not with your ears, but with your body. You have become a creature of instinct. The rhythm of your days is unchanging, but your reactions within it evolve. You wake, not with alarm, but with your body already tensed, ready. You no longer flinch when cold water stings your back. You brace for the slap that comes with hesitation. You are rarely caught off guard now. That is a kind of safety in itself. Pain is no longer frightening, it's familiar. And because it is familiar, it is manageable. You've grown stronger, leaner, harder. The soft folds of childhood have given way to wiry muscle and hollow hunger. Your shoulders are scraped and sun-darkened, your knees always bruised. But you notice too the change in how the older boys look at you. Not as prey anymore, as something taking shape. The Agoj is not about punishment, not really. It is about destruction, the tearing down of anything unnecessary. Softness, fear, ego, want. The goal is not to wound you, but to reduce you. Reduce until what remains is only what the city can use. You don't resist this anymore. You begin to believe in it. Some boys don't. There are whispers about one named Dymas, a wiry boy with clever eyes and a bent wrist from a fall during drills. He flinched during punishment, cried once when slapped. The others have begun to ignore him, not out of cruelty but as instinct. If the state doesn't want him, neither do they. One morning, Dymas is gone. No ceremony, no explanation. His name is not spoken again. You don't ask, you don't want to know. You are learning what silence costs. The only moments of stillness come in the evening, when the horizon turns bronze and the sun bleeds into the hills. You sit around a small pit fire, cross-legged, tunics clinging to damp skin. Chion tells stories, not sweet myths but Spartan fables. Stories of men who held their ground and died standing. Of one who lost his shield but refused to run, who used a rock to kill 3 enemies before dying with a laugh. These are not told with glory, they are told as instructions. You are told often, come back with your shield or on it. Not by your mother now, but by Chion, by the instructors, by the system itself. A man who throws down his shield is not just weak, he is treacherous. The shield is not only protection, it is what protects the line. You learn that a Spartan fights not for himself but for the one beside him. Individuality is sand, unity is stone. You no longer sleep deeply. You wake with the moon still high, certain you heard footsteps. Sometimes you did. Sometimes a rival group tests your vigilance, slipping in to steal food or punch a sleeping boy hard enough to bruise the eye socket. You must always be ready. Once, you're too slow to react. A sharp blow to your ribs wakes you, and you find your breath gone. Chion hears of it the next day and forces you to run until your legs collapse. He says nothing, but when he drapes a wet cloth across your shoulder, you feel a strange flicker of pride. He noticed. The sense of time becomes strange. The seasons shift subtly. You notice because the wind begins to bite harder, and your single tunic feels thinner. No one is given more. You wrap yourself in dried reeds when the wind rises at night. Sometimes you shiver so hard your teeth ache, but you never complain. Complaining would be worse. One evening, while cleaning the training ground, you find a piece of broken spear haft buried in the dirt. The wood is smooth where hands once gripped it. You brush the dirt off slowly, quietly. It feels like a relic, a trace of another boy's hands, long gone. You don't keep it. You leave it in place, hidden under a flat stone, and touch it each time you pass. Not as comfort, as a reminder. You learn how to inflict pain, not just in training, but strategically. You are taught pressure points, the angle of the elbow to dislocate a joint, how to choke a boy unconscious with a knee in your bare forearm. You do not celebrate victories, you simply execute them. But you also learn how to endure humiliation. Once, during a staged exercise, Chion calls you out for failing to hold the line. In front of everyone, he strikes you 3 times sharply with the flat of a training blade. You bow your head. The sting cuts deeper than usual, because he does it without anger, coldly, as if your failure was simply a flaw in the material he's shaping, and that's what you are, material. Later he pulls you aside. He says, "You can endure pain. Good. Now learn to endure shame. Only then are you useful." You carry that sentence for days. It settles like stone in your stomach. The agog includes more than drills. There are spoken tests too. Questions meant to reveal quick thinking, restraint, logic. You are asked once, what is courage? You answer, to act despite fear. It is not poetic, but it is accepted. Another boy says, to not feel fear, and is slapped. That is not the Spartan way. Fear is allowed. Surrender is not. You begin to understand why Sparta is feared. Not because its soldiers are superhuman, but because they are taught to feel nothing unnecessary, to ignore pain, hunger, pride, pleasure, exhaustion, even fear itself. The city does not want brilliant men. It wants silent ones, steady ones, ones who can hold the line and die without sound. The hardest part is not the cold, not the bruises, not the drills. It is the erasure. You're being hollowed out. All that was once personal, your favourite foods, the stories your mother told, the songs you once hummed, all of that is fading. You're being filled with new thoughts, new stories, new loyalties. You belong to something now, something ancient and massive. A wall of men forged by the same process who feel as you feel, who will die as you die. You're not special, and yet you are needed. You are 8 years old. The rains come for only a few weeks in Laconia. When they do not soften the land, they carve it. The ground turns to slick clay, and the olive trees weep dark onto the earth. This is when training becomes even more brutal. You rise before the mist lifts, barefoot as always, your tunic damp and clinging. Mud sticks to your knees as you run the circuit around the training yard. The cold no longer startles you. It lives inside you now, part of the rhythm. Cheon speaks even less these days. He stands with arms folded, watching, his mouth a tight line. You crave his approval, not because you admire him, because it means you're still becoming, that you're not failing. The errand selects boys for extra punishment with quiet nods now. There is no need for shouting. You know what to do before you're told. Your obedience has become second nature, unthinking. Your body responds faster than your mind. When told to kneel, you kneel. When told to run, you run. There is no hesitation anymore. There is relief in that. To follow without pause is to belong. One evening, Keon leads your unit outside the barracks and into the hills. It's almost dark. You carry nothing. No food, no cloaks, only yourselves. You hike in silence through thorn brush and dry gullies, until you reach a flat rise near a ruined stone outpost. There is a fire pit here, half buried, and ancient graffiti carved into the walls. Names, shields, curses. This, Keon says, is the old watchpoint. Spartans once guarded this hill in pairs, alone for weeks, waiting for signs of movement from Messene. Now it is your lesson. You are to stay here for 3 days. No fire, no food, just watches, shifts and silence. You don't ask why. You've learned not to. The first night the wind is sharp and relentless. You huddle under a ledge with the others. You take shifts, one always awake, eyes fixed on the black hills beyond. You begin to imagine figures moving among the trees. You don't speak your thoughts aloud. You watch. You endure. In the morning you gather roots and chew bitter shoots that leave your mouth dry and chalky. This is what the Agog teaches, that your mind is not a thing to be comforted. It is a weapon to be sharpened. Hunger, cold, fear, these are the stones you grind yourself against. By the 3rd day, you can feel your heartbeat in your teeth, a buzzing in your limbs. When Keon returns, he brings nothing, just his presence. He studies your faces, says simply, "Come." You follow, bones aching, bellies hollow. No reward, no praise, only the walk back in silence. At the training yard another lesson awaits, this time hand-to-hand fighting. No weapons. You are paired with a boy older and broader than you. His name is Theron. He has already lost a tooth. He grins as he cracks his knuckles. You circle each other on the sand. The match is not fair. You know it won't be. He strikes first, an open-handed slap across your cheek. You stagger, sand in your eye, your ribs exposed. He lunges. You duck, swing low, elbow to his stomach. It lands, but it's like striking a wall. He recovers and shoves you down. You hit the ground with your forearms. You scramble, dust, breathing, movement. You learn that this fight is not about winning. It's about continuing. Eventually you both collapse, blood and sweat mixed, silent. No one claps. No one says your names. Cheon only nods and gestures for the next pair to step forward. That night the bruises bloom purple and gold across your chest. You press a damp cloth against your eye. Another boy, small, watchful, leans over and mutters, "Good strike to the gut." It's the first kindness anyone has spoken to you in weeks. His name is Cleon. You remember it. Kindness in the Agoj is not given lightly. A word of praise from another trainee means more than any comfort from home ever did. You file it away. In a place deep inside where soft things still live, the next phase of training brings new disciplines, tactics, logic. You are given riddles by the Paidonomos, the state-appointed overseer. He is tall, pale, with a scar that runs from jaw to collarbone. He walks with a slight limp. He asks questions like, if a phalanx is broken in the centre, how do you contain collapse? Or, what is better, to win through strength or strategy? There are no right answers, only acceptable ones. You begin to study the art of laconic speech, brevity above all. To speak in few words is not just efficient, it is virtuous. Wastefulness of speech is a form of weakness. You are taught to convey meaning through silence, through tone, through the careful edge of suggestion. Your words become fewer, your eyes sharper. You learn that sometimes nothing is the strongest reply. One day, Keon has you all sit in a line and tells a parable. A wolf, he says, was raised among sheep. It learned to eat grass and bleat softly. It never bit. It never hunted. But when a storm scattered the flock and wolves came from the hills, the sheep cried out for protection. And the wolf, though he wanted to help, did nothing because he had forgotten how to bite. Then Keon asks, what is mercy if it leaves you useless in the face of danger? No one answers. You're meant to think, to carry the lesson in silence. Later that week, another test. The mock escape. You're blindfolded, hands bound behind your back, taken to the edge of the training woods and told to return to the barracks before dawn. No guards, no guidance. But if you are caught, the punishment is severe. You breathe slowly through your nose. The air smells of pine and old earth. You wait until the instructor's footsteps fade. Then you move. It is not just a test of stealth, it is a test of decision-making. You must know when to crawl, when to run, when to double back. You're learning to think like prey so that one day you will hunt with precision. You return before first light. Kion stands at the door. He says nothing, but he lets you pass. You're 9 years old now. The training will continue for a decade still, and already the softness of your past feels like something dreamt in another life. The rains come for only a few weeks in Laconia. When they do not soften the land, they carve it. The ground turns to slick clay, and the olive trees weep dark onto the earth. This is when training becomes even more brutal. You rise before the mist lifts, barefoot as always, your tunic damp and clinging. Mud sticks to your knees as you run the circuit around the training yard. The cold no longer startles you. It lives inside you now, part of the rhythm. Kion speaks even less these days. He stands with arms folded, watching, his mouth a tight line. You crave his approval, not because you admire him, because it means you're still becoming, that you're not failing. The Erin selects boys for extra punishment with quiet nods now. There is no need for shouting. You know what to do before you're told. Your obedience has become second nature, unthinking. Your body responds faster than your mind. When told to kneel, you kneel. When told to run, you run. There is no hesitation anymore. There is relief in that. To follow without pause is to belong. One evening, Cheon leads your unit outside the barracks and into the hills. It's almost dark. You carry nothing. No food, no cloaks, only yourselves. You hike in silence through thornbrush and dry gullies until you reach a flat rise near a ruined stone outpost. There is a fire pit here, half buried, and ancient graffiti carved into the walls, names, shields, curses. This, Heon says, is the old watchpoint. Spartans once guarded this hill in pairs, alone for weeks, waiting for signs of movement from Messene. Now, it is your lesson. You're to stay here for 3 days. No fire, no food, just watches, shifts, and silence. You don't ask why. You've learned not to. The first night, the wind is sharp and relentless. You huddle under a ledge with the others. You take shifts, one always awake, eyes fixed on the black hills beyond. You begin to imagine figures moving among the trees. You don't speak your thoughts aloud. You watch. You endure. In the morning, you gather roots and chew bitter shoots that leave your mouth dry and chalky. This is what the Agog teaches, that your mind is not a thing to be comforted. It is a weapon to be sharpened. Hunger, cold, fear, these are the stones you grind yourself against. By the third day, you can feel your heartbeat in your teeth, a buzzing in your limbs. When Chion returns, he brings nothing, just his presence. He studies your faces, says simply, "Come." You follow, bones aching, bellies hollow. No reward, no praise, only the walk back in silence. At the training yard, another lesson awaits. This time hand-to-hand fighting, no weapons. You are paired with a boy older and broader than you. His name is Theron. He has already lost a tooth. He grins as he cracks his knuckles. You circle each other on the sand. The match is not fair. You know it won't be. He strikes first, an open-handed slap across your cheek. You stagger, sand in your eye, your ribs exposed. He lunges. You duck, swing low, elbow to his stomach. It lands, but it's like striking a wall. He recovers and shoves you down. You hit the ground with your forearms. You scramble, dust, breathing, movement. You learn that this fight is not about winning. It's about continuing. Eventually you both collapse, blood and sweat mixed, silent. No one claps, no one says your names. Chion only nods and gestures for the next pair to step forward. That night the bruises bloom purple and gold across your chest. You press a damp cloth against your eye. Another boy, small, watchful, leans over and mutters, "Good strike to the gut." It's the first kindness anyone has spoken to you in weeks. His name is Cleon. You remember it. Kindness in the Agoj is not given lightly. The word of praise from another trainee means more than any comfort from home ever did. You file it away, in a place deep inside where soft things still live. The next phase of training brings new disciplines. Tactics. Logic. You're given riddles by the Paidonomos, the state-appointed overseer. He is tall, pale, with a scar that runs from jaw to collarbone. He walks with a slight limp. He asks questions like, if a phalanx is broken in the centre, how do you contain collapse? Or, what is better, to win through strength or strategy? There are no right answers, only acceptable ones. You begin to study the art of laconic speech, brevity above all. To speak in few words is not just efficient, it is virtuous. Wastefulness of speech is a form of weakness. You're taught to convey meaning through silence, through tone, through the careful edge of suggestion. Your words become fewer, your eyes sharper. You learn that sometimes nothing is the strongest reply. One day, Kion has you all sit in a line and tells a parable. A wolf, he says, was raised among sheep. It learned to eat grass and bleat softly. It never bit. It never hunted. But when a storm scattered the flock and wolves came from the hills, the sheep cried out for protection, and the wolf, though he wanted to help, did nothing, because he had forgotten how to bite. Then Kion asks, "What is mercy if it leaves you useless in the face of danger?" No one answers. You are meant to think, to carry the lesson in silence. Later that week, another test, the mock escape. You are blindfolded, hands bound behind your back, taken to the edge of the training woods and told to return to the barracks before dawn. No guards, no guidance. But if you are caught, the punishment is severe. You breathe slowly through your nose. The air smells of pine and old earth. You wait until the instructor's footsteps fade. Then you move. It is not just a test of stealth. It is a test of decision-making. You must know when to crawl, when to run, when to double back. You're learning to think like prey so that one day you will hunt with precision. You return before first light. Chion stands at the door. He says nothing, but he lets you pass. You're 9 years old now. The training will continue for a decade still. And already the softness of your past feels like something dreamt in another life. There is a silence that only exists at the edge of the Taygetos mountains, a kind of ancient hush that feels thicker than air, as if the stones themselves remember the footsteps of every Spartan who came before. It's here that your unit is sent for your next trial, not a punishment, not a routine drill, something older, older than even Kion, older than the Agogya itself. The elders call it the Long Shadow, a solitary trek across the hills without direction, without maps, and without company. Each boy is released alone with a skin of water and a sharpened stick. No food, no shelter. The goal is not to survive, though you must. The goal is not to return quickly, though speed is noted. The goal is to be seen by the land, by the memory of Sparta. To endure your solitude, to emerge not unchanged but more precisely shaped. You're released before dawn, led up a goat path by Chion, who carries a torch and nothing else. He doesn't speak as you climb. The rocks shift under your feet. Brambles tug at your legs. The stars are still out when he stops, gestures forward, and turns without a word. You don't ask how long the trial is meant to last. You simply begin walking. At first, your body moves by instinct. Trained reflexes keep you alert, scanning for snakes, listening for the snapping of branches or the thud of animal hooves. But the deeper you go, the less your muscles matter. The mind becomes louder, and then, eventually, quieter. You begin counting your breaths, not because you're afraid, because there is no one else to mark time now. The hills rise and fall like waves. You pass old paths, worn and narrow, lined with stones covered in moss. You see remnants of older structures, half walls, doorways that open into nothing, traces of wars long past, of Spartan patrols, Messenian rebels, and the quiet, steady erosion of years. Your stomach aches by the second day. You find bitter berries that stain your fingers purple and make your tongue numb. You eat anyway. You suck moisture from leaves before dawn. You begin to think not in hours but in light and dark, shadow and cold. At night, you curl beneath a low outcrop. You do not sleep deeply. Your ears remain alert and every branch creak or breeze shift stirs you half awake. But you are learning the stillness of the mountain. It does not comfort. It does not punish. It simply exists. And in its presence you are reduced to something very small, very focused. On the third day, a storm moves through the high passes. You watch it build across the distant ridgeline. Rolling clouds, low and thick, swallowing the peaks in slow silence. When it reaches you, the rain is steady and cold, soaking through your tunic, your hair, your skin. You do not seek cover. You stand still, blinking the water from your lashes, letting it wash the salt from your face. You begin to remember things you hadn't thought of in months. Your mother's voice, not clearly, but the tone of it. A brother's laugh, soft, just at the edge of memory. A fire, once, during a summer celebration, when the sky had been full of dust and smoke and music. You do not dwell on them, but they rise, and then pass. This too is the purpose. On the fourth night, you see firelight. Not close, distant, flickering, behind a bend in the cliffs. Not part of your trial, not allowed. But your body moves before you can think. You climb toward it silently, carefully, each footstep placed with precision. And when you reach the crest, you see not a camp, not patrol, but another boy, not from your cohort, sitting cross-legged alone, stirring embers. You recognize him faintly, from another training unit. His name, you recall, is Alecton. He does not look up when you step forward. He simply speaks. I knew someone would find me. You sit across from him without asking. For a long time, neither of you says anything. The fire crackles between you, its warmth a quiet betrayal of the rules. You do not feed it. You do not add wood. You simply let it burn. Finally he speaks again. I saw a wolf yesterday. It watched me all morning, then it left. He says it like a confession, or maybe a challenge. You nod. You tell him you heard owls every night, that they didn't hoot, just moved silently above. He looks at you finally. You're the one who broke Theron's nose in wrestling. You shrug. It healed crooked. Alecton smiles. The first smile you've seen in days. Then he says nothing more, and neither do you. At dawn, he is gone. The fire is cold. You leave without looking back. When you return to the edge of the hills, you find Hion already waiting. He looks at you with the same unreadable calm. His eyes move over your face, your torn tunic, the dried blood on your knee. He says nothing. Simply nods once and turns. You follow. There is no ceremony to your return, no welcome, no food offered. You are simply reintegrated. Another day, another drill, as if you were never gone. But something has changed. You walk differently now. Not faster, but quieter, more precisely. Cleon notices. He doesn't say anything, but he shifts closer to you during group exercises. You don't mind. The weeks that follow are filled with blade work, wooden swords replaced by dull iron, heavier, more brutal. You learn the rhythm of strike, block, pivot, of keeping your shield up even as your arm shakes. You spar with older boys now, even some Irenes, and are expected to hold your own. Not to win, but to withstand, to absorb, to think. Your hands become calloused, your shins bruise and rebruise. You no longer notice. Chion introduces a new lesson. Tandem survival. You're paired with another boy, at random, and sent out to complete a task without speaking. One of you must gather firewood, one must secure water. If you return without both, you fail. If one of you returns without the other, you both fail. You're paired with a boy named Menace. You've never spoken before. He walks with a limp, favouring his left leg, but he is clever. You nod once and he nods back. No words exchanged. You split the work cleanly. You observe each other like mirrors. You return with a full bundle of wood and a sloshing skin of water. The instructor barely looks at you, but you pass. That night, as you lay on your rough mat, you realise something new. You do not fear the trials anymore. You expect them. You're not yet a Spartan, but the shape of the Spartan is beginning to sharpen in you, and still, deeper trials await. The weeks pass like falling leaves, individually quiet but relentless in number. Autumn begins to lose its crispness and the air grows colder. The Spartan barracks take on a grey chill that seeps into your bones, no matter how tightly you wrap your coarse cloak at night. Each morning you are roused before light, before the cocks crow, before even the stars feel ready to fade. The days are colder now, and with the cold comes a new kind of hardness. There is a shift in training, not just in the drills themselves, but in the way they are delivered. Gone are the loud corrections, the barked orders, the thunder of commands echoing through the sand-lined courtyards. Now, silence rules. You're being taught to anticipate, not to wait for instruction. Discipline, they say, is not only about following orders, it is about knowing when to act without being told. The Paidonomos no longer tells you when to begin the shield drills. One of you must step forward. If it's the wrong boy, the entire cohort runs. If it's too slow, you run twice as far. Hesitation is punished more than mistake. Eventually, Cleon begins to step forward first, and no one questions it. You follow. Your bodies move like the cogs of a war machine, wordless, precise. Lycos struggles with this new form of training. He is still young, too eager to please, too quick to look toward your eyes for permission. You correct him in the quiet, not with words. With a hand on his wrist during drills, a nudge of your heel when his posture falters. You do not speak. Speaking now is rare, even off the field. One night, you and Cleon are chosen for a patrol. Not real, an exercise they say, but your bodies do not know the difference. You're given wooden spears and sent out to patrol the southern edge of the practice fields under the pale silver of the half-moon. There are rumours that the instructors sometimes dress as intruders, testing your alertness. You do not relax. Hours pass in quiet, and then movement. A shadow slips between two olive trees. You signal to Cleon with a closed fist. You drop low. He circles wide. You wait, counting breaths. 4, 5, 6. Suddenly, Cleon yells. A shape lunges out of the dark. You leap. Your body collides with someone taller, stronger. You're knocked back, but you recover quickly, sweeping your leg under their feet. The figure falls, grunting, armour clattering. You recognise the tunic of a senior Eren beneath the training gear. You both freeze. Then the instructor stands. His face is impassive, but his nod is slow, deliberate. Return. That's all he says. You and Cleon walk back through the low fields, heart still racing under your tunics. You do not speak. You do not need to. In the moonlight you feel the shared hum of adrenaline, of knowing you passed something important, something not written. A few days later, during a spear-throwing exercise, one of the boys collapses. It is sudden. His knees buckle beneath him and he falls forward onto the dust, face pale, mouth open. He is not wounded. He is not crying out. His body simply folds. You are frozen for only a moment before Keon kneels beside him. He places a hand to the boy's chest, then lifts his wrist. The boy is breathing, but shallow, faint. Keon stands. Dehydration, he says without emotion. There is no pause in the training. The boy is carried away. His name is not spoken again. That night, you drink slowly, evenly, every swallow measured. You watch the others doing the same. You do not speak of it, but it lingers. Another lesson is added. Pain endurance. You're taught to stand in position for hours without movement, shoulders raised, shield arm extended. If you shift even to adjust your footing, you begin again. You do not cry out. You learn to swallow the pain, to house it, like a fire hidden deep in your chest. Sometimes Cheon walks among you during these drills, whispering insults, not to mock, but to break your focus. He speaks softly of your mothers, your weaknesses, your failures. He looks into your eyes, not with hate, but with intention. You begin to understand distraction is death, anger is weakness, silence is power. One morning, Keon speaks before the cohort after drills. He rarely addresses you outside instruction, so his words hang in the cold morning air with weight. You're not boys, he says slowly. Not anymore. You're not yet Spartans either. You're something between, like iron in fire, being forged. He walks down the line, boots crunching on gravel. Some of you will not survive this forging. Some will break, some will fade. That is acceptable. He stops in front of Lycos, but those who remain, his voice lowers almost to a whisper, will become something the rest of Greece fears. He walks on. You feel Lycos trembling beside you. You do not look at him. Later that week, you are taken to a hillside shrine, small, ancient, marked with soot and bone. Here you are instructed to make a private offering. No one is told what it must be. You bring a fragment of your old childhood tunic, the one you hid beneath your mat, threadbare and soft. You place it on the stone, alongside others, bits of bone, carved stones, a few bronze trinkets stolen from helots. It is not about gods. It is about sacrifice. The quiet parting with something that once made you soft. You leave the hill with lighter hands, and the drills continue. You are given heavier shields. Real swords now. Dulled? Yes, but capable of real blood. You begin to bleed more often. Your arms ache constantly. Your legs feel like stone, but you are never still. There is no finished. There is only better. One afternoon you see an older cohort pass by, nearly full grown now. These are the boys who once seemed like men to you. Now, you see the tightness in their stances, the weariness behind their eyes. They are near the end of the agauge. Soon they will either be admitted into a Syssitia, a brotherhood, a dining mess of full Spartan warriors, or quietly removed, made into something lesser. They do not look at you, and yet in their silence there is recognition. One day you will pass as they do. One day you will walk that same corridor of dust and shadow, but not yet. First, there are more trials to come. The first time you steal, it is not because you are hungry, though you are. It is not because you are commanded to, though you were. It is because everyone does, and if you do not, your hunger will outlast your pride. They don't call it theft in the barracks, not out loud. It's spoken of in glances, in careful silences, in the half-nods exchanged between boys when a morsel goes missing, or a cloak is found replaced with a warmer one, threadbare but heavier. You are never told how to do it. You are simply expected to learn. The agoge demands resourcefulness. The authorities provide only the barest essentials, coarse bread, diluted wine, and thin porridge, and even that is reduced during training periods. Hunger becomes your constant companion, and they do not forbid stealing. In fact, they reward it, if it goes unnoticed. But if you're caught, the punishment is severe. You do not suffer for taking, you suffer for failing to be cunning. At first, you observe, others are bolder. Many slips dried figs from a merchant's cart while pretending to tie his sandal strap. Alecton disappears into the storerooms during dusk drills and returns with hard cheese wrapped in wool. You watch, you learn. Your hands memorize the patterns of shadows and voices, and when the time comes, you choose carefully. A helot girl carries laundry from the upper house near the temple. You know her route. You've watched her twice now. She walks quickly, glancing behind her only once near the orchard wall. She carries a woven basket with a strip of cloth draped loosely over the top. You follow her silently, keeping to the olive trees, feet bare and soft on the packed dirt. She doesn't hear you. You get close enough to see the sweat on her neck, the frayed hem of her tunic, and when she slows to shift the basket in her arms, you strike. Your hand moves quickly, no hesitation. A small wrapped bundle tucked near the edge, still warm. Bread. You vanish before she turns her head. It is your first success. You eat it that night in the dark, away from the others. You break the crust slowly, the warmth long gone, but the scent still rich, still real. You chew slowly, silently. You savour. You feel not guilt, but a strange calm. You were told to take. You took. You succeeded. Later, Lycos asks where you got it. You do not answer. He doesn't press. Others are not so lucky. One boy, Demarion, is caught sneaking salted fish from a storehouse near the Elder's mess. He claims he was retrieving a dropped training sash. The instructor finds the fish under his cloak. The next day he's flogged in front of the cohort. You are required to watch. Chion stands beside the flogging post, arms crossed. He says nothing as Demarion is bound. The iron chosen for the punishment does not look angry. His expression is blank, practiced. He has done this before. The whip cracks once, twice. Clean, sharp slashes across the boy's back. Blood appears by the third. Demarion does not cry out, not at first, but by the sixth lash. His breath catches. His knees buckle. His face contorts. Not in pain, but shame. He's not whipped for hunger. He's whipped for failure. You do not look away. Later that evening, Keon addresses the cohort. You are Spartans, not Athenians, not Argives, not Persians. You are born to take what you need and hide the taking well. If you are caught, it means you were careless. If you are punished, it means you were not clever enough. Hunger is no excuse. The weak do not deserve food. They deserve to be forgotten. He pauses. Remember this. And you do. The next day, the instructors raise the stakes. You are assigned targets, not to steal from them, but to observe them and to predict when they are most vulnerable. Merchants, travellers, even temple boys. You must note their routines, their blind spots, how many steps they take between the agora and the fountain, whether they carry food or coin in the left hand or the right. You are being trained not in warfare alone, but in infiltration, in subtlety, in calculation. Your mind becomes sharper than your blade. You follow a middle-aged merchant for 3 days, noting his limp, the way he favours his left side when carrying baskets. You realise he walks past a narrow stone wall each morning while adjusting his robe. On the 4th day, you leave a small cut in the strap of his basket. Barely visible, the strap snaps. The basket falls. In his frustration, he drops a linen pouch. You retrieve it before anyone notices. 6 dried dates, a sliver of salted goat meat. You share them with Cleon in silence. A week later, a new form of punishment is introduced. Isolation. A boy named Petrus is caught lying. Not about a theft, but about a beating. He claimed he fell during drills. Keon discovers the truth. Petrus had taken a blow from an older boy and did not report it. Not for fear, for pride. He is not flogged, he is removed. For 2 weeks, Petrus sleeps alone in the woodshed. He's given no rations. He's spoken to by no one. You are forbidden to look at him, even as you pass by and hear his coughs at night. When he returns, he is thinner. His face is hollow, but his eyes are sharp, sharper than before. It is meant to teach not just the cost of pride, but the importance of obedience. In Sparta, silence is not weakness. It is discipline. You think of this one morning as you patrol with Alecton, watching for signs of hell at gatherings. Your instructors tell you little, but the tension is there. You are not yet warriors, but you are instruments. You are learning how to see before acting, how to notice before being noticed. It is the art of control, not just of others, but of yourself. In the cold mornings now, you wake with hunger biting your stomach. But you do not complain. You are past that. You accept the gnawing as part of the shaping. The others do too. When a cloak is stolen in the night, no one reports it. When a heel of bread disappears, no one accuses. There is an unspoken law now. If you are caught, you suffer alone. But if you succeed, you are respected. You sleep less. You dream more. Strange blurred dreams of fire, of wolves, of your mother's hands reaching out and pulling away. The world of softness has become a distant country. You are not from there anymore. You are becoming something else. It begins with whispers, as most dark things do. The word crypteia is never said aloud by the instructors, not at first. You hear it among the older boys during water duty, or from the corners of the training yard after nightfall, as if speaking it too loudly would summon it. At first, it means nothing to you, just another shadow among the many that cling to the barracks walls. But in Sparta, the things not spoken of directly are often the most real. The winter rains come, slow and persistent, turning the courtyard to mud. You train barefoot, as always. There are no allowances for discomfort. If the cold bites your soles, you bite back. The drills are longer now. Days blend together in a rhythm of endurance. Spear formations in the dawn mist, obstacle courses at midday, cold water immersions by night. Your breath fogs the air even when your body burns from the strain. And then, without announcement, one of the older boys disappears. Theron, the tallest among them, with the calm eyes and quiet stride. He was strong, competent, often silent. One morning his mat is empty, his cloak gone. His belongings, sparse to begin with, vanished. No explanation is offered, no question is answered. That evening Keon addresses you. He does not mention Theron by name. Instead he speaks of duty, of loyalty, of the greater weight that awaits those who prove themselves worthy. There are things that must be done to protect Sparta, he says, voice low, steady, not glorious, not spoken of, but essential. No one dares ask what he means. Later, in the half-dark of your quarters, Cleon leans close and whispers a name. Cryptea. He says it barely above breath, as if afraid the walls might hear. You do not respond, but you hear the words settle in your stomach like a stone. The next week, the routine shifts subtly. Select boys from older cohorts are seen leaving the camp at night. They return before dawn, their eyes heavy but their faces unreadable. They do not speak. They train as usual, but there is something colder about them now, like a blade held too long against the wind. Eventually one of them is assigned to observe your cohort. You recognize him. Doros, quiet, often distant. He stands by during spear drills, watching not your form, but your behaviour. He notes who hesitates, who flinches, who cheats when the instructor isn't watching. When Chion speaks to him, it is never more than a word or two. Soon after, your cohort is reduced by one. This time, it's Nicandros. He had been struggling, his spearwork lacked precision, and he moved awkwardly in formations. He was not weak, but not sharp enough. He's called away during meal preparation. His plate is left half filled. You do not see him again. That night, you do not sleep. Not fully. The wind presses against the thin shutters, and the silence in the barracks feels heavier than usual. You lie awake and imagine Doros standing outside, watching. The next morning, a lesson begins before dawn. You're taken into the foothills north of the training grounds, far from the temples, far from the city walls. No torches, no guidance. Just your cohort, 2 instructors, and a winding path lit by the faint light of the stars. When you arrive, you find the remains of a burnt-out fire, a crude perimeter marked with stones, and several black hoods resting on the ground. Chion says nothing as he hands them out. You place the hood over your head, cutting off your sight. The world becomes sound, texture, breath. You hear the quiet scraping of the others doing the same. No instruction is given. You wait. Minutes pass, maybe longer. The cold creeps through your cloak, settling on your skin. Your legs begin to ache from stillness. Your mind wanders. To Theron, to Nicandros, to the rumour of boys sent into the wild to kill. And then, movement. A shove at your shoulder. A whispered word. Run. You obey. You tear off the hood and sprint. The terrain is uneven, rocks slipping beneath your feet, branches clawing at your arms. You do not know what you are running toward or from. Behind you, shouts erupt. Not panicked, but deliberate. A pursuit. This is not a test of speed. It is a test of instinct, evasion, control. You dodge through low brush, leap a narrow stream, and keep running until your lungs burn. When you finally stop, you are alone in a hollow of trees, heart pounding like a drum. You crouch low, steady your breath, and wait. After what feels like an hour, Chion finds you. He does not praise you. He does not speak. He simply nods once, then turns back toward the trail. You follow. The experience is never mentioned again. In the following days, you notice something has changed. The instructors begin referring to your cohort not as boys, but as units. Your punishments are now collective. If one of you errs, all of you suffer. You begin to move as one, at meals, during drills, even in rest. The individuality you once clung to has been carved away. What remains is a shape that resembles a phalanx, even without armour. You hear more about the Cryptea, though always indirectly. A quiet boy in the upper cohort returns with a scar that wasn't there before. When someone asks about it, he stares straight ahead and says, "I was in the woods." Another time, a helot house near the far fields is found empty, its fires extinguished. No one speaks of it, but you remember what Chion said, things that must be done. One night, you're summoned individually to the central court. Chion waits there, seated. He gestures for you to kneel. He asks only one question. If Sparta commands you to do something you do not understand, will you obey? You do not answer immediately. Not out of doubt, but because the weight of the question settles differently than you expected. You think of your mother, of your first night in the barracks, of Lycos crying silently that winter morning. Then you answer, "Yes." Chion nods. You are dismissed. You do not speak of it to anyone, but the silence afterward grows heavier. Not oppressive, just necessary. You understand now that the Agog does not merely produce soldiers, it produces silence, obedience, shadows. The cold comes sharper now, creeping into your bones without warning, not just from the changing seasons, but from the weight of what is no longer said aloud among your cohort. You are no longer children, not in name, not in mind and certainly not in purpose. The Agog has stripped that away. What remains is something harder, leaner, more silent. You wake each morning with your back straight before your eyes even open. Your hands reach instinctively for your cloak and sandals. Your mind is already counting. How many steps to the well? How long before the morning whistle? Whether the older cohort boys are watching from the walls. They always are, but so are you. There is no longer fear in your heart when you see their eyes linger on you. There is only calculation, a mental weighing of strength, of intent, of weakness. Not because you wish to challenge them, not yet, but because the Agoj has trained you to measure everything. Every silence, every pause, every tremble in the hand of another boy as he grips his training spear. Your unit, your brothers, are changing too. You notice how Cleon no longer jokes, how his brow stays furrowed even in rest. You hear Alecton muttering strategies to himself at night, going over formations like a priest over prayers. Even Lycos, who once flinched at every sudden sound, now watches the shadows with a quiet readiness. You do not talk about the Cryptia. You do not speak of Nicandros, nor of Theron, nor of the boys who return with eyes that no longer blink when others cry out in pain. You all understand it now. Some among you will be chosen, others will not, but none of you can escape what Sparta is making of you. And so, in this silence, in this constant weight of expectation and invisible pressure, something strange begins to form, a kind of trust, not soft, not warm, but unbreakable. You do not love these boys. You would not say you even like all of them, but they are part of you now, like a shield is part of the arm, like a line of defence is part of the phalanx. Their pain is your pain. Their failure is your shame. The instructors know this, they foster it. One morning, Chion has you stand in a wide circle. At the centre, two boys are chosen at random. Fight, he says. They do. No rules, no points. No end except one falling to the ground. The next day, another pair, then another. It continues for a week. You begin to notice patterns. Strength means little without control. Rage burns fast and leaves the body vulnerable. Those who win do so not with brute force, but with rhythm, patience, and awareness. When your turn comes, you are paired with Cleon. You do not hesitate, neither does he. The clash is sharp and silent, save for the scuff of feet and the breath through clenched teeth. He lunges low, you pivot. He throws a feint, you answer with a hard elbow to his ribs. You both fall once, then again. It is not clean, it is not glorious, it is honest. When Kion ends the bout, you both are bleeding from shallow scrapes. He nods. Acceptable. The next day, he increases the stakes. Now, the loser does not eat. By the end of the week, you are leaner, quieter, more calculating. Your body aches, but it is no longer pain, it is fuel. Soon after, another trial begins. This one lasts 3 days and nights. You are led into the Tegetos foothills again, but this time without instructors. No food, no fire. Only the 6 of you from your cohort, cloaked and armed with dull wooden blades. Your task is not told to you, only this. Return when the sun sets for the 3rd time. You begin walking. It is silent at first. Not for lack of thoughts, but because each of you knows that words are wasted out here. You scan the terrain, the sky, the tree line. You keep count of water sources. You estimate your distance from the barracks. You mark stones with cuts in the bark. That night, the cold bites hard. There are no dry places to rest. The firewood is damp. You huddle beneath a thicket, your body pressed against Alecton's for warmth. Cleon curled near your feet, his arm tucked under his cloak. None of you sleep long. On the 2nd day you encounter helots. They do not attack. They do not speak. They only watch from the edge of a clearing as your group passes. You see their eyes, wary, worn, unreadable. The younger ones look away. The older ones stare openly as if they know what you are becoming. You do not approach them, but you do not fear them. That night you go hungry. Your traps catch nothing. The small roots you dig up are bitter, barely edible. You chew them anyway. You dream of food, not warm meals, but bread crusts and olives. Simple things. The final day dawns grey and damp. Your limbs are sore, your feet blistered, but you walk. You do not complain. You're too far beyond complaint now. Just before sunset, as you crest a low ridge, you see the faint smoke of the barracks in the distance. You do not cheer. You simply return. Chion greets you at the gate. Report, he says. You list your findings, terrain, weather, resources, possible threats. He nods once. You are dismissed. Later that evening, food is laid out, no instructions, no orders. Just roasted meat, salted barley, olives. The best you've had in weeks. You eat together in silence, not because you are told to, because you understand what this moment is, and because there is nothing more to be said. That night, as you lie on the hard mat, you feel something shift inside you. Not pride, not satisfaction, but readiness. A quiet, settled knowing. You are not finished, but you're no longer a boy. You're no longer separate from the others. You're becoming one weapon, forged from 6 hands, 6 eyes, 6 hearts. Sparta is sharpening you still, but the blade is beginning to show its edge. Pain is the language the Agog speaks fluently, but it is never wasted. It is a teacher, a judge, a gatekeeper. You begin to understand this fully as the months drag on, each day bringing a new lesson in endurance, of body, mind, and spirit. Your mornings start before dawn, the chill of the stone barracks seeping through your thin tunic. You dress quickly, hands numb from the cold, then line up silently outside the great hall, waiting for the signal to begin. The instructors arrive without fanfare, their faces set like carved marble, their eyes sharp and unyielding. The drills grow harsher, you are pushed harder. The instructors test your limits, not just to see if you can endure, but to see how you respond. Do you collapse? Do you cry out? Do you rebel? Or do you absorb the pain, turn it inward, and keep moving forward? On one particular morning, the sky is heavy with grey clouds that threaten rain. The ground is slick with mud. You're ordered to carry heavy logs through the muddy fields, weaving between rows of olive trees. The wood is rough and splintered, and the cold seeps into your muscles. Your fingers bleed from the friction, but the instructors do not stop you to tend the wounds. Instead, they watch. Nearby, a boy named Theramenes falters. The log slips from his grasp and crashes to the ground with a loud thud. His face flushes with shame. An instructor approaches and strikes his back with a staff, hard enough to leave a welt. Theramenes straightens instantly, eyes fixed ahead, and picks up the log again without a word. You understand then that the pain you endure is not punishment. It is a gift that teaches you resilience, that teaches you control, that teaches you the quiet power of the body when the mind is steady. Later that day you gather with your cohort in the training yard. Your bodies are bruised and raw, but the fire of determination burns hotter. The instructors announce the next trial, a test of pain endurance and mental fortitude. You are to endure the diamastagosis, a ritual flogging meant to prepare you for the harsh realities of Spartan warfare. You lie face down on the ground as the instructors approach. The first lash cuts across your back, a sudden burning sting that makes you gasp, but you do not cry out. The second follows, then the third. Each lash feels like fire, but you focus on your breathing, steadying your mind. You think of your mother's hands, of the stories of ancient heroes, of the cold nights with your brothers. The lashes continue, rhythmic and relentless. Your skin breaks, and blood seeps into the dirt beneath you. But your will does not break. When it ends, you lie still for a moment, tasting the coppery tang of blood in your mouth. Then you rise, slower than before, but with a fierce calm burning in your chest. You look at your brothers. Their faces mirror your own, determined, proud, unbroken. This pain is more than physical. It is transformation. That evening, as you tend your wounds with the cold water from the well, a thought takes root in your mind. In Sparta, suffering is not weakness. It is strength made visible. The Agog does not spare you. It shapes you. And through this shaping, you become more than a boy. You become a soldier. The days after the flogging pass in a haze of exhaustion and quiet resolve. Your body aches, muscles tight and bruised, but your spirit feels sharper, like a blade honed on stone. You move differently now, deliberate, controlled, aware of every step as though each one might carry you into battle. One afternoon, the instructors lead your cohort to the outskirts of the city, near the fields where the helots work. You know the helots by sight, their coarse tunics, their bent backs beneath heavy loads, the wary glances they cast when no overseer watches. They are not your enemies, not exactly, but they are never your equals either. They are beneath you in the rigid hierarchy Sparta demands. Today, however, You're not here to train with weapons or shields. Instead, the instructors order you to observe. You sit silently on the edge of the field, cloaked and still, eyes narrowed against the bright sun. The helots move with a steady rhythm, their hands breaking soil, harvesting grain, tending flocks. There is no chatter, no laughter, only the low murmur of work and the occasional bark of overseers. You watch one helot in particular, a young man whose face is bruised, his hands calloused. He glances up briefly, catching your gaze, eyes wide with something that looks like fear. You do not look away. Keon stands behind you, his voice low and measured. "Remember this face," he says. "The helots are many. They outnumber us 10 to 1. They are not free. They have no loyalty except survival. You will be the blade that keeps them in line." You nod, though your heart stirs uneasily. That night, as you lie on your cot, the image of the young helot's eyes lingers in your mind. You wonder what it means to be free, what it means to be bound. The Agog teaches strength and endurance, yes, but it also teaches fear. Fear of the helot's numbers, of their anger simmering beneath the surface, of the chaos that might erupt if control falters. Weeks later, you hear whispers of the Cryptia again. This time, it is no longer rumour. Older boys from your cohort are chosen to slip into the helot fields at night, to hunt, to silence, to remind them of Sparta's unyielding power. You hear the stories in fragments, of shadows moving through olive groves, of screams swallowed by the night, of swift, silent justice. The Agog is not just about making warriors, it is about making peacekeepers through fear. You understand this now, and you steel yourself against what is to come. The cold sharpens everything, your senses, your resolve, and the bitter truth that discipline in Sparta knows no mercy. Dawn often arrives before you have fully shaken off the remnants of restless sleep, the stone floor beneath your thin mat unforgiving, just like the demands of your instructors. The Agog is relentless. It grinds away any softness left in you, replacing it with something more precise, more efficient, more Spartan. This morning, the frost laces the barracks' windows, turning the world outside into a brittle landscape of pale blues and silvers. Your breath rises in small clouds as you line up with the others, the ground crunchy beneath your bare feet. The instructor, Kleindros, stands before you, his face an unreadable mask as he surveys the formation. You feel his eyes cut through you, gauging not only your posture or strength but your spirit. He commands silence, and then orders a series of physical tests, running uphill with heavy loads strapped to your backs, repetitive push-ups until the muscles tremble and threaten to give out, spear drills where every movement must be flawless, or the consequences follow swiftly. You push through the burning muscles and laboured breathing, every step echoing with the lesson. Endurance is everything. Pain is temporary, failure is not. But the discipline extends beyond the physical. In the silence of the barracks, you learn restraint, control over even the smallest impulse. When a sharp stone cuts your palm, you do not cry out. When your legs shake from exhaustion, you do not complain. When hunger gnaws quietly during the long afternoons of training, you learn to ignore it, to subsume it beneath the greater goal. At night, when the others drift into uneasy sleep, you lie awake and count the stars, your mind repeating the lessons Kion once gave you about the gods watching over Sparta's warriors. You wonder what kind of men you will become, whether the discipline that feels so cold now will one day warm into strength that protects, or if it will leave you hardened beyond feeling. You catch glimpses of the older cohorts in the city, soldiers returning from the Agog, their faces calm but shadowed, eyes carrying secrets you do not yet understand. They seem distant, almost not quite human. Their silence speaks volumes, and you realise that the Agog does more than train your body. It moulds your very soul. As the cycle of seasons turns again, the rhythm of your days under the Agog carries you deeper into the fabric of Spartan life, woven tightly with rituals older than the city itself. One such ritual arrives quietly, without the clamour of training drills or the harsh commands of the instructors. It is the diamastagosis, the sacred whipping. But tonight, you will also witness the Eispnelia, the feast of the warriors. The evening air is cool but steady as your cohort assembles, beneath the shadow of the ancient altar in the central courtyard. Torches flicker, casting long wavering shapes across the stone walls. The air smells faintly of burning pine and roasted meat. You feel the eyes of the city's elders upon you, men who have long passed through this brutal passage, their gazes a reminder of the legacy you are about to inherit. The feast begins with silence. You kneel in a circle, backs straight, faces solemn. Each boy receives a piece of dry barley bread and a cup of watered wine, simple fare that tastes sharp and foreign on your tongue. The meal is not about comfort, but communion, a bond forged in shared sacrifice. Then comes the ritual flogging. The instructors lay out leather thongs, their edges rough and unforgiving. One by one, each boy is bound to the altar and whipped. The strikes are methodical, precise, not meant to break you, but to teach endurance, submission, and the will to rise despite suffering. You watch as your brothers are lashed, the sound of skin meeting leather sharp in the quiet night. When your turn comes, you close your eyes and focus on your breathing. The pain arrives in waves, searing and relentless, yet within it you find clarity, a fierce presence, a surrender to something greater than yourself. After the flogging, the feast continues in a softer tone. Stories are told in low voices, tales of Spartan heroes, of battles won and lost, of honour and sacrifice. The elders speak not of glory, but of duty. They remind you that the life you're forging is not yours alone, but belongs to Sparta, to the generations that will come after. You listen, rapt, as the fire crackles and the night deepens. The pain in your back throbs steadily, a reminder of the path you have chosen, or that has been chosen for you. Here, in this sacred gathering, you realise that the agog is as much about teaching humility as strength. It is about learning to carry the burdens of a city, to wear pain as a mantle of responsibility. You sit in silence after the feast, the weight of the night settling over you like a cloak. The stars overhead seem distant, but steady, witnesses to your transformation. And in that quiet moment, you feel the first true stirrings of what it means to be Spartan. The days grow shorter and the air cooler, hinting at the coming autumn, yet the weight of your training feels heavier than any season's chill. There is no pause in the agog. If anything, it deepens its grip, pulling you further away from childhood, from comfort, from the softness of home. Now you stand on the cusp of a new challenge, one that will stretch you beyond the walls of Sparta itself and test the very core of your being, the trial of survival in the wilderness. Before dawn, you are roused from your sparse bedding by the low whistle of an instructor. No name called, no explanation given. Your cohort forms quickly in the damp light of morning, the cold moisture seeping through your tunic and into your skin. No words are exchanged. There is only the heavy breath of anticipation and the steady crunch of feet on the frost-hardened earth. You are led beyond the city's stone ramparts, past the olive groves and into the foothills of Mount Taygetos. The terrain is unforgiving. Jagged rocks, dense thickets, and the ever-present shadow of ancient trees whose gnarled roots seem to twist like the memories of 1,000 Spartan warriors. The instructors, silent, watchful, hand each of you a small pack containing a few strips of dried meat, a wooden cup, and a short blade duller than any you have wielded before. You are told simply, return at sunset in 3 days, alone. No maps, no guides, no companions. A flicker of dread stirs in your gut, but you clamp it down. You have been trained to face fear, not to succumb to it. Your first steps are tentative, the unfamiliar crunch of leaves and twigs underfoot echoing loudly in the stillness. The sun climbs higher, filtering through the canopy in shafts of pale light that dance over moss and stone. You remember Keon's words, "The wilderness does not forgive weakness, it reveals it." You find a sheltered spot beneath a thick pine and sit, pulling out the dried meat. It is tough and bitter, but sustenance nonetheless. You ration your water carefully, mindful of what lies ahead. As the hours stretch, you begin to understand the wilderness is not empty. Every rustle, every bird call, every shifting shadow speaks a language you must learn. You track the flight of hawks, the movements of small mammals, the scent of water in the air. Hunger gnaws, but it sharpens your senses rather than dulling them. The nights are cold and unforgiving. Without fire, strictly forbidden, you curl against the earth, your body wrapped in your cloak, listening to the distant howls of wolves and the rustle of unseen creatures. Your mind wanders to your family, to the warmth of your mother's embrace, and then forcefully returns to the present. This solitude is part of the agog's design, to teach you self-reliance, to build a silence inside you that no enemy can penetrate. On the second day, you face your first real test. Starving and desperate, you spot a small rabbit caught in a natural trap. Your heart hammers as you approach, blade in hand, every instinct screaming with hesitation. But this is survival, not choice. You strike swiftly and cleanly. The weight of taking life settles over you, heavy and unfamiliar yet undeniable. You prepare a small fire from dry twigs, careful not to let smoke betray your presence, cooking the meat with trembling hands. The taste is raw and primal, but it fills you with a fierce satisfaction. As night falls again, you realize the wilderness has changed you. It has peeled away layers of doubt and fear, leaving a raw, focused will beneath. You no longer think of home as refuge, but as a distant shore. You're becoming something else, a creature shaped by endurance and necessity. The third day arrives with a grey sky and a biting wind. Your feet bleed from sharp stones. Your clothes are stiff with dirt and sweat. Yet you push onward, eyes fixed on the distant silhouette of Sparta's walls. When you finally emerge from the woods, the sun is low and the city quiet. Your cohort awaits, silent, watching. The instructors glance over your worn form and nod once, curt and approving. You're no longer a boy lost in the woods. You're a hunter, a survivor, a Spartan. The wilderness has claimed you, forged you anew, and you carry its lessons deep within your bones. After your solitary journey through the wilderness, the Agoj presses onward, sharpening skills less visible, but no less essential: stealth and silence. These are the shadows behind the warrior's sword, the invisible armour that guards a soldier's mind and body. Today, the instructors prepare you for a trial unlike any you've faced so far. A night exercise designed to teach you how to move unseen and unheard, to become a shadow yourself. The sun dips low as you gather in the training yard, the pale light folding into dusk. Around you, the barracks loom tall and dark, their stone walls fading into a veil of shadows. Your cohort moves quietly, the usual clatter of armour and weapons replaced by soft whispers and careful steps. The instructors hand each boy a simple wooden dagger and a cloak dyed in muted earth tones, perfect for blending into the night. You will navigate the city unseen, Chion's voice is calm but firm. Your mission: to reach the Temple of Artemis without alerting the sentries. Failure means returning at dawn and repeating until success. A hush falls over you. The city you know so well, the streets you run daily, now seems a maze alive with unseen dangers. Every flickering torch and every shuttered window feels like a watchful eye. As darkness swallows the sky, you slip into the shadows. Your breath slows, heart steady. You move on bare feet, feeling the cold stone beneath your soles. The cobbled streets echo faintly with distant footsteps, and the low murmur of voices from taverns closing for the night. Every sound you make feels amplified. A single misplaced step could mean discovery, punishment, humiliation. But the Agoji has taught you control. You adjust your pace, pausing behind pillars and doorways, listening to the rhythm of the city's nighttime breath. At one point, a sentry appears, a tall man holding a spear, his eyes sharp in the flickering torchlight. You freeze, pressing your body flat against the cold wall, your breath held so tightly it feels like it might crack your ribs. The sentry passes within inches, oblivious to your presence. You wait a heartbeat longer, then continue. The streets twist and turn, each corner bringing fresh challenges. A barking dog startles you near a stable, its sudden noise ripping through the quiet. You hold perfectly still, heart hammering, until the animal's barks fade into the distance. Finally you reach the temple's steps, the ancient stone carved with scenes of the hunt. Relief floods through you, mingling with pride. You have moved through the city like a ghost, unseen and unheard. Returning to the barracks, you notice how different the world feels in daylight. The city is no longer just a place of training and routine. It is a living labyrinth, a challenge to be mastered with patience and silence. This lesson of stealth and silence is a quiet one, but its echoes will stay with you, weaving into your movements, your thoughts, your very being. The Agoj is teaching you not only to fight with strength, but to fight with subtlety. The harsh days and cold nights of the Agog bring a transformation not only to your body and mind, but to the relationships you forge with the boys beside you. In Sparta, the strength of the individual warrior is inseparable from the strength of his fiducia, the brotherhood, the common mess, the shared life. As you progress deeper into your training, you come to understand that the bonds you build here will carry you through the greatest challenges of your life. After weeks of relentless trials, your cohort is granted a brief reprieve. It is not a luxury, but a necessity. A moment to recover, to share food and stories, to learn the power of trust and unity. In the dim light of the mess hall, the smell of roasted goat mingles with the sweat and dirt of your bodies. Around you, the boys are quieter than usual, their faces reflecting exhaustion, but also something like relief. You sit close to Theramenes, whose quiet endurance during the earlier trials earned him respect. His eyes, once wary, now meet yours steadily as you share a piece of bread. Around the circle, laughter and conversation begin to flicker to life, small sparks in the darkness of your grueling days. Chion steps forward, his voice softer than usual. A warrior does not stand alone. Sparta demands brothers who fight, bleed, and live as one. Tonight, you learn the meaning of the syssitia, the common mess that binds us. The conversation turns to stories, tales of ancient battles, of fathers and grandfathers who fought side by side, never leaving a comrade behind. You listen, captivated by the weight of history carried in their words, feeling a subtle shift within yourself. The training, the pain, the hunger, they are easier to bear when shared. Outside, the stars wheel slowly across the sky, distant and eternal. You realise that while the Agog pushes you to endure hardship, it also offers connection, a reminder that you are part of something larger, a living thread in the tapestry of Sparta. As the night deepens, the bonds of brotherhood grow stronger. You understand that these are not just friends, but lifelines. Brothers who will fight alongside you, who will carry your name when you're gone, who will shape the legacy of Sparta itself. This unity, forged in hardship and shared purpose, will become one of your greatest weapons. The days continue to flow, steady and unyielding like the river Eurotas, carrying you deeper into the heart of Spartan discipline. With every passing moment, you learn that not all battles are fought with spears or shields. Some are waged within, in the silent recesses of your mind. Today, the instructors emphasize the power of silence, not just in movement, but in speech. The Agog demands restraint. Words are currency, and in Sparta they must be measured, purposeful, scarce. Excess chatter is seen as a weakness, a distraction from the path of the warrior. You find yourself walking in lines through the olive groves, the soft crunch of your sandals the only sound breaking the quiet. Your cohort moves as one, no laughter, no whispers, just the steady rhythm of footsteps. The air is cool and fragrant with the scent of damp earth and crushed leaves. At times you catch the gaze of an instructor, sharp and unyielding, reminding you that silence is obedience, a discipline that trains not only your tongue but your mind. You learn to listen, to the rustle of wind in the trees, to the distant call of birds, to the subtle shifts in the atmosphere. These sounds become your companions, guiding you through the stillness. The evenings grow long, and with them, your thoughts stretch out into the quiet spaces left by silence. You reflect on the lessons of the Agog so far, the pain that builds strength, the solitude that fosters survival, the bonds of brotherhood that provide support. And now, this silence, a new kind of challenge. In the quiet, you confront fears and doubts you did not know you carried. The absence of noise forces your mind inward, revealing shadows you have learned to ignore. But you also discover a strange peace, a calm centre amidst the storm of training. Silence becomes a shield, a weapon, a refuge. You understand that a true Spartan warrior is not only forged in fire and battle, but tempered in quiet resolve. The Agog does not allow comfort or indulgence. As your training presses on, hunger becomes a constant companion, a sharp edge that cuts deeper than any whip or spear. It is not merely the absence of food, but a deliberate trial designed to teach restraint, resilience, and focus. Each day, your rations shrink. The dried barley and scant meat you once received feel like distant memories, replaced by gnawing emptiness that settles in your stomach and creeps up your spine. Your limbs grow leaner, muscles tightening as your body learns to conserve energy. The instructors watch closely, their eyes cold but calculating, ensuring none break under the pressure. At times the hunger seems unbearable, a dull ache that clouds your mind and tests your will. Yet, in those moments, you learn to shift your attention to the warmth of the sun on your skin, the sound of the wind through the olive branches, the steady beat of your own heart. Hunger sharpens your senses and distills your thoughts. It strips away distractions, leaving only the essentials: survival, obedience, and the unyielding will to endure. In the quiet moments before sleep, you find your thoughts drifting not to food, but to the promise of strength, the knowledge that your body and mind are being forged into instruments of war and discipline. Hunger becomes a teacher, harsh but honest, reminding you of the cost of Spartan greatness. Through this endurance, you glimpse the true nature of the agolge. It is not about breaking the body alone, but building a spirit that can withstand any trial. The nights in Sparta carry a different kind of challenge, one that seeps into your bones and whispers doubts in the dark. The agolge does not simply train you to endure hunger or hardship in daylight. It teaches you to stand firm when the world around you is cold and unforgiving, when the silence of night presses close and the sharp air bites into your flesh. Tonight, you face the crucible of cold and darkness, a test meant to temper both body and soul. As dusk fades to black, you and your cohort are led to the northern edge of the city, where the rugged foothills rise in jagged shadows against the sky. The instructors give no word of comfort or warning, only the cold fact that you must survive the night exposed to the elements. Your only protection is the thin cloak wrapped around your shoulders and the cloak you carry in your hands. The wind cuts through the trees like a blade, and the chill sinks deep beneath your skin. You find a shallow hollow between rocks, nestling low to the ground. The earth beneath you is hard and unforgiving. The cold seeps through your tunic and settles in your bones like a slow-burning fire. You pull your cloak tighter, trying to hold in what little warmth you have. Your teeth chatter involuntarily, breath forming clouds in the icy air. Around you, the others struggle in silence, the flicker of torchlight distant and faint. Hours stretch endlessly. Sleep comes only in brief, restless moments, and the cold robs even that of comfort. Your body aches from the chill, fingers numb and stiff, muscles tight with tension. But amid the discomfort, a fierce determination rises. This trial is not punishment, it is preparation. The cold strips away illusions of safety and ease, exposing you to the raw truth of what it means to be Spartan. You think of the warriors before you, those who marched into battle in bitter winters, their bodies hardened by years of such nights. Their strength was not just in muscle or skill, but in the quiet endurance of pain and deprivation. As the stars wheel slowly overhead, distant and unchanging, you find yourself slipping into a rhythm. You focus on steady breaths, on the slow beating of your heart, on the steady beat of the earth beneath you. The cold is a harsh teacher, but it teaches presence and patience, lessons that will serve you long after the frost fades. When dawn finally creeps over the horizon, painting the sky in pale pinks and golds, you rise stiff and aching but alive. The cold night has passed, and with it, a deeper understanding of your own limits, and the strength to push beyond them. You know now that Spartan warriors are forged not just in the heat of battle, but in the silent, frozen hours of the night, when only the strongest survive. As the morning light spreads softly over Sparta's stone rooftops and the distant hillsides, a new challenge awaits you, not of strength or endurance, but of judgment. The elders of Sparta, those wise men who have seen countless generations pass through the agolge, gather to test your understanding of discipline and obedience through their ancient form of justice. You and your cohort stand before the council in the shadow of the agora, the open market square where citizens gather to debate, trade, and govern. The elders sit on high stone seats, their faces lined with years and authority. Their silence is heavy, pressing down like the weight of history itself. The charges are vague yet grave, infractions of the agolge's strict codes, moments of weakness, disobedience, or failure. Each boy is called forward in turn, their actions examined not just for what they did, but for how they carry themselves before judgment. You feel your heart beat loudly in your chest as you wait, knowing the consequences could shape the rest of your life. When your name is finally called, you step forward, bareheaded and steady, the cold morning air brushing against your skin. The elder's eyes bore into you, searching for signs of remorse, courage, or defiance. They speak in measured tones, recounting your deeds and missteps, testing your honesty and resolve. Punishments are swift and designed not only to correct, but to teach endurance and humility. Lashes to remind of the cost of failure, extra duties to build resilience, public tasks that force you to confront shame and rise above it. Yet there is no cruelty beyond what the law demands. This is justice, harsh but fair, the backbone of Spartan society. Standing there, you grasp the intricate balance Sparta maintains between strength and order, freedom and control. The elders do not merely enforce rules. They uphold a system designed to preserve the city's very soul, ensuring that every warrior carries the burden of discipline as faithfully as his spear. The experience humbles you. It strips away any lingering illusions of invincibility and replaces them with a deeper respect for the laws that govern your life and the price of defiance. You return to your cohort with a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that to become truly Spartan, one must not only endure pain and hardship, but accept the weight of justice with dignity. The sun climbs steadily above Sparta's red-tiled rooftops, as your training shifts focus from individual endurance to collective strength. Today, you're introduced to the core of Spartan military might, the hoplite phalanx. This formation is more than a battle tactic. It is a living, breathing embodiment of Spartan values, where every soldier's fate is bound to the man beside him. You find yourself in the training grounds, the earth hard-packed and scarred by countless drills. Your hands tighten around the wooden shaft of the dory, the spear that will become an extension of your body. The heavy bronze shield, the aspis, rests against your arm, its round surface scarred from past campaigns. As you stand shoulder to shoulder with your brothers, the weight of the armour and weapons feels less like a burden and more like a promise. The instructor's voice is calm, but each word carries the weight of command. The phalanx is unity. It is discipline. You fight not as individuals, but as one. You learn how to align your shield, locking it with those beside you to create an almost impenetrable wall. Your spear is poised to thrust forward, supported by the solid line behind you. Each movement is choreographed, practiced until muscle memory replaces thought. The rhythm of the drills is hypnotic. The shouts, the stamping of feet, the clang of bronze all blend into a slow, deliberate cadence. You begin to sense how the strength of the whole surpasses that of any single warrior, how trust and cooperation form the backbone of Spartan victory. At times the formation falters, shields slip, spears stagger, but the instructors push you relentlessly to perfect the unity. A break in the line means death, they warn. You must hold together, or all fall. As you move with your brothers, the battlefield fades away and only the phalanx remains, solid, resolute, unyielding. You understand that this is not merely a military tactic, but a metaphor for Spartan life itself, bound together in discipline, sacrifice, and unwavering loyalty. Through this lesson, the Agog teaches you that to be Spartan is to become part of a whole greater than yourself, where individual glory is surrendered to collective strength, and in that surrender, you find your true power. After mastering the phalanx, your training shifts once again, this time to the shadowy arts of stealth and survival in the wild. Sparta's warriors are not only formidable in the open field, but feared as silent hunters, masters of tracking, ambush, and guerrilla tactics. Today, you step into the forested hills surrounding the city, where the rustle of leaves and distant bird calls mask lessons as old as Sparta itself. You move with a small group of your cohort, instructed to spread out quietly and observe without being seen. The instructors remind you that to hunt is to understand the land, to read its subtle signs, broken twigs, flattened grass, faint footprints. These whispers of nature reveal the presence of prey or enemy, and your survival depends on deciphering them. Your feet sink softly into the mossy earth, your breath slow and controlled. The sun filters through the canopy in golden shafts, casting dappled shadows that dance over the undergrowth. You pause, crouching low to examine a disturbed patch of soil, noting the freshness of the prints. A small deer has passed here recently, its delicate tracks leading deeper into the forest. The instructors test your patience and alertness, challenging you to move silently and strike swiftly. In one exercise, you lie in wait for hours beneath a tangle of branches, muscles tense as your gaze follows a rabbit darting through the brush. When the moment comes, you move with the precision of a serpent, swift, silent, deadly. As the day wears on, you realise that this training is about more than just hunting animals. It is a study of the enemy's mind, of unpredictability and patience. In the tangled forests, you learn to become invisible, to anticipate, to strike when least expected. The camaraderie among your group deepens as you share whispered strategies and silent signals. Trust and coordination take new forms here, beyond the tight ranks of the phalanx. By the time dusk settles and you return to the city, your skin is scratched and bruised, but your spirit feels sharper, more alive. You carry with you the quiet power of the hunter, an understanding that true strength sometimes lies not in brute force, but in silence, observation, and timing. As your training evolves, the Agog begins to reveal lessons far beyond physical endurance and military skill. You come to understand that the essence of Sparta is not merely the warrior's might, but a rigid moral code woven into every moment of life, a discipline that governs thought, behaviour, and even desire. One morning you gather in the shadow of the council house, where a senior instructor speaks of the virtues that shape a Spartan man: eidos, shame; andreia, courage; sophrosine, self-control; and areta, excellence. These values are not abstract ideals, but living rules that demand constant vigilance. You listen as he describes how shame is a powerful force, more binding than chains or whips, compelling Spartans to avoid cowardice or weakness. Courage is not reckless bravery, but a calm steadfastness in the face of fear. Self-control tempers passion, ensuring that desire never overrides duty. Excellence is the pursuit of perfection in every action, no matter how small. These lessons are reinforced in daily life, from how you carry yourself in the presence of elders to how you respond to failure or success. You're reminded that a Spartan's honour is fragile, a flame that must be protected and nurtured through constant effort. You notice how even the smallest misstep is met with quiet disapproval, how peer judgment weighs heavily. The Agage trains you not just to obey orders, but to internalise discipline until it becomes instinct. Walking through the training grounds, you reflect on how these values shape the rhythm of Spartan life. They impose limits on pleasure and freedom, forging a community united by shared sacrifice and mutual respect. The instructor's words echo in your mind. To be Spartan is to carry these virtues like armour, invisible but unbreakable. In this way, the Agoga moulds more than warriors. It crafts the very soul of Sparta. As you move deeper into the Agog, the memory of your earliest years in Sparta surfaces with a sharp clarity. The childhood you thought you knew now reveals itself as a crucible of hardship, designed to prepare you for the demands of a Spartan warrior's life from the very beginning. Born into a society that prized strength above all, your first tests came before you could even walk steadily. At birth, the state's elders examined every newborn. Weak or deformed infants were abandoned, left on Mount Taygetus to perish, an unthinkable act to other cultures, but a brutal necessity in Sparta. This harsh practice ensured that only the strongest bloodlines survived, a grim testament to Sparta's unforgiving ethos. If you were spared, your early childhood was still far from gentle. Your mother, herself trained in Spartan discipline, raised you to be resilient. Your daily life was filled with simple but rigorous tasks. You were encouraged to run barefoot over rough terrain, to sleep on hard beds with little warmth, to eat modestly and learn endurance before indulgence. You were taught to endure pain without complaint, a lesson carried from your earliest days into every aspect of your existence. At age 7, the Agoi formally took you in, but even before that, you had learned the values of austerity, obedience, and courage. Childhood was not a time for play, but for preparation, a continuous shaping of body and spirit into the Spartan ideal. Looking back, you realise how every moment of your youth was measured against the unyielding standards of your city-state. There was no space for softness, no tolerance for weakness. You were forged from the start to become a soldier, a defender of Sparta's legacy. This knowledge settles within you with a quiet weight, the understanding that your path was never a choice but a destiny. carved out by the harshest hands and tempered by the harshest lessons. While your days are consumed by relentless training, your thoughts sometimes drift to the women of Sparta, mothers, sisters, and daughters, whose lives are entwined with the warrior's path in ways subtle but powerful. Unlike other Greek city-states, Spartan women hold a unique and respected place, shaping the future of the Agog and the city itself. Your mother, a woman of strength and discipline, raised you with a stern affection, instilling in you early lessons of endurance and honour. Spartan women are trained in physical fitness themselves, encouraged to run, wrestle, and build strength. Their robust health is seen as vital to producing strong offspring, future warriors who will carry Sparta's legacy. Though not part of the Agoge's military training, women maintain the home and uphold Spartan values with fierce dedication. They are taught to speak boldly, command respect, and manage estates, especially as many men spend years away at war or in training. Their role is not passive, rather, it is one of silent strength and unwavering support. In this society, women are expected to embody the same virtues you strive for: courage, self-control, and excellence. Your mother's words often echo in your mind, reminding you that the city's survival depends as much on the home front as on the battlefield. You also learn that Spartan women possess a rare freedom of speech and property rights compared to other Greek women, a freedom earned through the unique demands of their culture. Their influence extends quietly but deeply into every aspect of Spartan life. This connection between men and women, partners in the harsh endeavour of survival, imbues you with a sense of belonging to a broader interwoven community. The Agog may shape you into a warrior, but it is the strength of Spartan women that nourishes the spirit of the city. As you continue your training, you carry with you the knowledge that your own path is part of a larger story, one of mutual sacrifice, endurance, and shared purpose. As your years in the Agog advance and your body hardens into a weapon, you begin to hear whispers of the ultimate test reserved for the most promising young Spartans, the Crypteia. This secretive and feared rite of passage marks the transition from disciplined youth to full-fledged warrior, a shadowed phase where only the strongest emerge with true honour. The Crypteia is a night of solitude and silent terror, an ordeal where you are sent alone into the wild countryside surrounding Sparta. Armed with only a dagger and cloaked in darkness, your mission is to survive by any means necessary. But this survival is no simple matter. It involves hunting, evading capture, and, at times, executing those deemed threats to Sparta's stability. Often the Helots, the subjugated population who live under Spartan control. This brutal task serves multiple purposes. It tests your cunning, endurance, and ruthlessness. It teaches you to rely solely on your wits and training, without the safety of your brothers or the shield of the phalanx. The experience is meant to forge you into a predator, silent, deadly, and utterly self-reliant. You prepare mentally for this passage, understanding that the Crypteia is not merely about physical skill, but the cold acceptance of Spartan law and the harsh realities of your city's survival. You contemplate the weight of this duty, how it demands you to suppress fear, doubt, and compassion for the sake of Sparta's order. In the days leading up to the trial, you move with a heightened awareness, every sound sharper, every shadow deeper. The forest no longer feels like a place of refuge, but a realm of testing and judgment. Though the idea unsettles you, you grasp its necessity in the harsh balance Sparta maintains, between freedom and control, strength and subjugation. The Crypteia is the crucible that will finally separate boys from men, warriors from children. And as you step toward this dark trial, you feel the full weight of what it means to become truly Spartan. As your journey through the Agog continues, you come to realize that amidst the relentless trials and harsh discipline, an unspoken bond grows between you and your fellow trainees. A bond born not of choice, but necessity. Forged in shared hardship and silent understanding. This brotherhood is perhaps the most precious lesson of all, a quiet force that sustains you through the darkest moments. You begin to notice how small gestures, a tightened grip on a shield, a glance of encouragement during a punishing drill, the shared silence after a harsh punishment, become threads weaving you together. The Agogy is designed to strip individuality, but in this crucible, something deeper takes root: loyalty, trust, and an unbreakable connection. There are moments when exhaustion and pain threaten to overwhelm you, and it is the presence of your brothers, their steady breathing beside you, their unwavering eyes, that pulls you back from the edge. In this relentless world, vulnerability is a risk, but here it becomes a source of strength. You reflect on stories told in hushed tones, the sacrifices made by warriors in battle, the ultimate reliance on each other's shield and spear. These tales are not just legends, but the living truth of Spartan life, passed down through the agoge to remind you that no warrior stands alone. The quiet nights, when the city sleeps and the world softens, are when this brotherhood feels most real. You and your comrades share whispered hopes and fears, the weight of your training balanced by shared dreams of honour and survival. This bond is invisible but unbreakable, a silent oath that will carry you through the chaos of war and the solitude of hardship. Through pain and discipline, you have found something that no test or trial can take away. Your brothers in arms, bound by blood and purpose. Amidst the harshness of your daily regimen, you discover that the agoge is not solely built upon physical rigour and relentless discipline. It also nurtures the spirit through the ancient arts of music and poetry. These elements, surprisingly gentle and soothing, form a vital counterbalance to the unyielding demands placed upon you. On certain evenings, after exhausting drills have left your muscles trembling, you gather quietly around flickering torches in the training hall or near the hearth. Here, an elder bard or instructor recites epic tales of heroes long past, stories of valour, sacrifice, and the god's will. The cadence of their voice, steady and measured, wraps around you like a soft cloak, inviting you into a world where courage and honour are immortal. The poetry isn't mere entertainment, it serves as a teaching tool, embedding the values of Sparta deep within your mind. Through these verses you learn the importance of duty, the glory of sacrifice, and the eternal struggle between order and chaos. The rhythm guides your breathing, steadying the mind worn thin by hardship. Music too plays a subtle role. The simple melodies played on the aulos, a reed instrument, or the steady beat of drums accompany group exercises, marking the tempo for marches or synchronized movements. The sounds instill a sense of unity, connecting you to your fellow trainees and the long line of Spartans before you. In these moments, the sharp edges of the agoge soften. The fierce warrior within you meets the timeless artist, and a fragile balance emerges. The arts remind you that strength is not just physical endurance, but also the capacity to carry your culture, your people's stories, and your own humanity through whatever trials lie ahead. This blend of strength and softness, discipline and art, is a hallmark of Spartan education, one that shapes not just warriors, but keepers of a lasting legacy. As your training progresses, you come face to face with one of the most daunting rituals of the agoge, the diamastegosis, the ritual scourging performed in public. Unlike the private punishments meted out by instructors, this is a spectacle, a solemn and brutal reminder of Spartan discipline and communal expectations. On a cold morning, you and your cohort gather in the agora, the city's heart, where citizens assemble under the gaze of stone statues and watchful elders. The air is crisp, tinged with a mixture of anticipation and unease. This punishment is reserved for serious offences or failures, moments when a Spartan's resolve is tested not only in solitude, but before the eyes of the entire polis. The punishment itself is simple but excruciating. A fellow trainee or appointed official delivers lashes across your bare back, each strike a searing reminder of the cost of weakness or disobedience. Yet, it is the public nature of the diamastegosis that truly cuts deep. To endure pain is expected, to show weakness is unthinkable. You stand firm, every muscle tensed against the sting, feeling the eyes of your city upon you, friends, mentors, elders, all silently demanding your endurance. The sound of the lashes cracking through the air blends with the quiet murmur of the crowd, a chorus of silent judgment. But the ritual is more than punishment. It is a rite of passage, a forge where resolve is tempered and fear confronted. Those who withstand the diamastegosis without flinching earn a form of respect, a testament to their inner strength. In the days that follow, your back still aches, a constant reminder of the ordeal. Yet, it also carries a strange pride, a proof that you have faced pain openly and survived. The ritual binds you more deeply to Sparta's harsh codes, shaping your spirit with every lash. Through this trial, you learn that Spartan discipline is not just about obedience, but about mastering oneself in the glare of communal expectation, transforming pain into resilience. As the years in the Agog pass, you approach the threshold that separates boyhood from full citizenship, the period known as the ephebate. This final stage, beginning around age 20, marks the transition from trainee to warrior citizen, where your training intensifies with new responsibilities and privileges, drawing you closer to the heart of Spartan society. No longer merely a student, you now join a larger group of young men who have survived the relentless challenges of the Agog and proved themselves worthy to bear the title of Spartiates, full members of the warrior class. The ephebate is not simply a continuation of drills and discipline, but a time when your education broadens to include governance, diplomacy, and the sacred rituals that bind Sparta's political and military life. Days are filled with rigorous exercises, but also with discussions led by elder Spartans, who impart wisdom about strategy, ethics, and leadership. You learn about Sparta's unique political system, the dual kingship, the Gerousia Council, and the vital role citizens play beyond the battlefield. The city's expectations weigh heavily upon you. This stage demands not only physical excellence, but the cultivation of wisdom, loyalty, and judgment. You begin to understand that to be Spartan is to serve not just as a warrior, but as a guardian of an ancient way of life, balancing the demands of war with the responsibilities of peace. Your comrades become brothers in arms in a truer sense now, bound not only by shared hardship, but by the solemn oath to defend Sparta's honour and laws. The bond feels unbreakable, forged through years of trial and shared purpose. As you stand beneath the olive trees that shade the training grounds, you glimpse the city's future resting on your shoulders and feel the profound weight of your coming role. The ephebate is your final preparation before joining the ranks of Sparta's warriors, a time of growth, reflection, and readiness for the life you have been forged to live. As your ephebate progresses, the time approaches for you to undergo the sacred rituals that mark your official entry into Spartan warriorhood. These ceremonies are steeped in ancient tradition, connecting you not only to your city but to generations of warriors who have come before. They serve as both a spiritual and communal passage, binding you irrevocably to Sparta's enduring legacy. One evening, as twilight softens the sky into hues of purple and gold, you and your fellow initiates gather at a secluded temple dedicated to Artemis Orthia, the goddess revered for her protection of youth and warriors. The air is thick with the scent of burning olive oil and the murmurs of prayers whispered by the elders. Here, you undergo rites that test your courage, endurance, and reverence. The most intense is the diamastagosis again, but this time it is intertwined with religious significance, each lash symbolizing the shedding of your boyhood fears and the cleansing of your spirit. The pain is sharp, yet beneath it lies a profound transformation, a rite of purification and rebirth. Following this, you partake in solemn offerings and sacrifices, the rhythmic beating of drums and chanting weaving a sacred atmosphere. Your heart beats in time with the chorus, a steady drum echoing the unbroken spirit of Sparta itself. The elders present you with your weapons, a new dory and aspis, symbols of your status as a full warrior. These tools are no longer mere training implements, but extensions of your duty and honour. In this moment, standing beneath the ancient stones, surrounded by your brothers and the silent gaze of the gods, you feel the weight of history settle upon your shoulders. You are no longer a boy or trainee, but a Spartan warrior, entrusted with the city's future and its sacred traditions. The ritual concludes with a shared meal, quiet and respectful, a final moment of camaraderie before you step fully into the life you were born to lead. Now fully initiated, you step into a new existence defined by duty, discipline, and constant readiness. Life as a Spartan warrior is not marked by grand parades or idle glory, but by a quiet, relentless commitment to the city-state's survival and honour. Your days blend training, service, and vigilance, the boundaries between them often indistinct. You rise before dawn, the cool morning air filling your lungs as you prepare for rigorous drills, marching in formation, weapons practice, and exercises to maintain the peak physical condition demanded of you. Yet beyond the physical, you remain a constant observer of the laws and customs that govern Spartan life, bound by an unspoken code of silence and restraint. Spartan warriors live modestly, sharing communal meals in the Syssitia, the mess halls where equality is enforced through simplicity. Here, beneath flickering torchlight, bonds deepen over coarse barley bread and diluted wine, conversations limited but meaningful, focused on loyalty, tactics, and the city's welfare. Your role extends beyond warfare. You serve as guardian of peace, maintaining order among the helots and ensuring the city's laws are upheld. You're ever watchful, a symbol of Spartan strength and authority, both feared and respected by neighbours and allies alike. Though the battlefield is always a possibility, your life is also defined by the quiet moments between conflicts, the discipline to remain alert when danger is absent, the humility to accept Sparta's demands without complaint, the resolve to endure hardship without falter. In these moments, you feel the profound weight of the Agogi's lessons, the moulding of your body, mind and spirit into a single, unyielding instrument of the city-state's will. You carry Sparta within you, not just as a soldier, but as a living embodiment of its harsh, enduring ideals. With the years settling into the steady rhythm of your warrior life, a quieter truth emerges beneath the surface of Spartan valour, a burden carried in silence, known only to those who have walked the path. The Agog has forged you into a formidable warrior, but it has also exacted a price beyond the scars and muscles. You begin to sense how the relentless pursuit of perfection leaves little room for personal desires, dreams, or doubts. The city's expectations weigh heavily on your shoulders. Failure is not simply personal, it threatens the very fabric of Sparta. The pressure to embody courage, discipline, and loyalty at all times becomes a constant, unyielding companion. Loneliness creeps in during rare moments of solitude. Bonds with family and close friends are often distant, strained by the demands of your role. The stoic silence expected of you can feel isolating, a barrier to expressing fear, pain, or grief. Yet you accept these sacrifices as part of your duty. To be Spartan is to choose the collective over the individual, to wear restraint like armour, and to carry the city's legacy without falter. The pride in your identity as a warrior often softens the sting of this isolation. In quieter hours you reflect on the paradox of Spartan life. Strength born of sacrifice, honour forged through hardship, and a freedom defined not by indulgence but by unwavering commitment. This burden, though heavy, is the price of excellence, a silent testament to the harsh beauty of the Agoj and the society it sustains. Now, standing at the culmination of your long and arduous journey through the Agoj, you pause to reflect on what it has meant. Not just the training, the pain, or the discipline, but the deeper shaping of your identity and purpose. The Agog was never simply about creating warriors. It was about forging a society where every individual is a living thread in an unbroken tapestry of strength, loyalty, and sacrifice. You think back to the cold mornings running barefoot over rocky soil, the whispered lessons beneath olive trees, the chants of ancient poets, and the harsh lash of the diamastagosis. Each trial, each lesson, was a step toward becoming part of something greater than yourself, an unyielding city-state whose survival depended on the courage of its sons. The Agogi has been both harsh tutor and guardian, demanding that you shed your childhood and any semblance of individual weakness. It taught you endurance in pain, obedience without question, and the primacy of the collective over the self. And yet within its rigid framework you found camaraderie, honour, and a profound connection to your homeland. This legacy is not easy to bear. It carries the weight of sacrifice, the necessity of difficult choices, and the shadow of lives shaped by struggle from birth to death. But it is a legacy that has endured for centuries, a testament to the power of discipline and unity. As you prepare to fully embrace your role as a Spartan warrior, you carry these lessons quietly within you, an enduring flame in the long night of history. The Agoge has made you what you are, a guardian of Sparta's harsh, beautiful, and unforgettable way of life. And with this final thought, the story of your journey through the Agoj comes full circle, a slow, steady breath in the ancient rhythm of Sparta's enduring soul. Thank you for joining me on this journey deep into the world of ancient Sparta and the Agoge, a harsh, relentless path that shaped warriors and a city alike. As you settle now, carrying the echoes of this story with you, May you find calm in the quiet strength of endurance and the timeless flow of history. Rest gently, and let your mind drift softly through the ages, wrapped in the steady rhythm of ancient lives and lessons. Sleep well.